Saints Talk listeners, what's up? We back another week. It's a happy week. Hopefully it's a happy week. Welcome to Saints Talk, the official podcast for NewOrleans.Football. Start off as always to direct you guys to the NewOrleans.Football website, the subscribe link, NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Go there, get all the latest Saints content from Nick himself. Make sure you guys follow Nick on Twitter at Nick_Underhill. You guys can go to YouTube and search for Nick. His name, Nick Underhill. Make sure you follow the YouTube page. We post the visual version of the podcast here every week so you guys can watch us talk to each other if you're into that kind of stuff. Man, get a pot of 5-star ratings wherever you listen, specifically iTunes. It helps us a lot. And if you guys are on Instagram, make sure you go check out NewOrleans.Football. Nick, what's up, man?
Just it's looking like football's coming, man. They got it all hammered out. Everything's just starting to come together. So I don't know if I was ever super worried about the season starting on time.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, intellectually there has to be some level of concern, you know, and
yeah,
it's not, you know, whatever you think of. I'm not going to get into like what everybody thinks on the virus. People can have their thoughts, you know. Yeah. What matters in the context of football is that like if it exists or not. And if it exists, someone gets sick, they're gone. And you know, for a minute there, it started to look a little bit sketchy. You know, the numbers in Louisiana are starting to trend in the right direction, but you know, we're gonna get rolling here, and they're coming together, and they're gonna try it. And look, honestly, I think once they start, it's not gonna stop. You know, so it's looking like things are gonna get going.
So,
man.
Can I tell people about how like you were crying to me in text, worried about like?
Hey man, I mean, you know, there's definitely a level of concern. I hitched my whole I decided to hitch like my whole ability to pay my bills to the sport of football, and then all of a sudden this thing happened, and then there's the threat of it going away. Like you don't know what's going to happen, so that's scary. But you know, a lot of people feel that fear right now. So you know, that's not unique to me. You know, people are losing their jobs, and people are worried about how they're going to feed their families and stuff, and that's just where the world's at right now. And you know, it looks like the football thing.
It's a little bit of a reprieve. Yeah, it's a little bit of reprieve from just people who's dealing with whatever. And so, absolutely. Yeah, you know, I had a bedroom ready for you, extra room. Had a little gigantic kennel for Shireen. I mean, I was ready, man. I was going to take you in. But, you know, she's part of the deal, right? You got to respect that.
Absolutely. She's going to be there doing her thing. So,
yeah, I was going to send you this link today. Crazy off topic. Casper, this company, they sell beds and they make dog beds. And I was like, I'll never buy myself a good bed, but I will definitely buy my dog like the most expensive one I can find.
Absolutely. You got to. Yeah. They deserve the best. I bought a Shireen Serta bed like a few weeks ago, and third or fourth day she chewed a hole in it. So I'm going to buy her another one though.
Yeah. I know she does like to chew stuff. I know my MacBook cord.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's all good. So football's back. Right. We're excited. I'm excited.
They got to hammer out the financials, but I mean, I think they're going to do it. I mean, they can't be that stupid to let that happen.
Stop them.
Yeah.
So
let's start there.
Okay. So the salary cap.
Yeah. So basically, like I think it's either going to be flat, stay at 198.2 over X amount of years. The owners would, you know, take the hit and basically subsidize it.
Yeah.
And, you know, from their point of view, it's kind of like giving the players a loan and they aren't paying interest on it, which I get to a certain extent, but I think it would be idiotic to make it all absorb next year, the hit next year in full. And then you're dropping the cap 50, 60, $70 million down to 120 million. I don't think there's a lot of teams that could get down to that point without it being a bloodbath in the streets. And I don't see how that's, man, like if you're an owner and you allow that to happen, your team all of a sudden becomes extremely less marketable. Your fans are upset. People aren't happy about the sport, or you basically tack on. So you could take every salary out to 5 years. So if you have 3 years left, you could add 2 to it. That's, you know, how long you can spread out the signing bonus, and you could take everybody's base salary and spread it out over 5 years. Which is basically what the Saints do quite often to fit other people under the salary cap that they can't afford. They'll tack a couple ghost years on the end, and you know, it allows you to prorate it. You could do that for like every player on the team and probably get close to 120. But then, like, what's your cap look like in 21, 22, you're never digging out. So if you don't do the smart thing now, I think it really damages the sport in ways that it will never overcome.
Yeah, I guess every team becomes the Saints, and the Saints got to figure out some new, some new means of manipulating the salary cap. Because, yeah, it's weird. I was trying to think through it today, right? And the tricky part is a lot of these teams, when they sign players, they sign them with the idea that the cap will continue to increase, right, every year. And so, best case scenario, like you said, it stays flat for, I don't know how many years. I think it would be like 3 or 4.
Might even be longer than that.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens, right? All these teams, they've been operating with the premise that they're going to have this cap space for, next year and whatnot, and now all of a sudden you don't have it. So that kind of puts it changes plans in ways that teams are not prepared for. So, but on the flip side, I do think that everyone is dealing with the same thing, right? So that's what kind of makes me think like, okay, it sucks. I think teams plan for it. They plan for it, but at the end of the day, everyone's on the same playing field, and there are teams who don't use their cap space who probably won't be affected. The Bengals probably are like going as business as usual, right? When teams like the Saints, they got a lot of different things to do, and the thing that stands out is salaries are increasing, right? So say for instance, if Ramchick signs a deal that clearly he's probably going to top the tackle market, right? Just whenever he hits free agency, we know the starting point, the highest number, $500,000 over that, and that's where we're starting. How does it affect guys who are trying to beat the highest deal on the market, right?
Well,
Mike Thomas.
You could handle Ramchick. He's like extending Ramchick would actually lower his hit for next year. So like he's on the books for $10 million. If you sign him to an extension, you can probably cut that in half. You still give him a sizable signing bonus. If you're really pressed for cash and this whole situation plays out, he's going to have to get the money. He would probably have to agree to a very large roster bonus in year 2 of the deal, at which point you turn that into a signing bonus and prorate it out so that you aren't taking as much hit up front, and it allows you to hide. So if you got a $20 million signing bonus, you divide it by 5, it's $4 million on the cap this year. But if you gave him 10 and you take it out, it'd be 2. And then you put the rest, the next 10 in the second year, and say it's a 6-year deal. So then you can take it out another 5 years, and then it goes out that way. And those cap hits become in place then in year 2, but he just doesn't get as much upfront money. And if the league's in the situation where the cap is, very bad and everybody's trying to, dance around it and find ways to fit him, I think that for someone like him to get the money that he wants and deserves, he'd probably be more than willing to say, okay, I'll take 10 million up front. And, I'm okay with waiting on, like, who really needs 20? I don't know anybody's situation, but like, who really needs like $20 million all at once? Like, you can probably be okay with 10 for a little while.
Yeah, that makes sense. You think that players in the salaries for certain positions are going to continue to climb like they are?
I mean, if things flatten out at some point, things are going to have to flatten out, right? I mean, I think that it's kind of like how the economy is. Like if the dollar stops rising in value, like products stop rising in value. So
yeah, that's fair.
I think that's how it's probably going to have to play out for a little bit. And, Mahomes got his money when he did. I don't know if anybody's topping that in a while. I don't know if anybody's topping C-Mac at running back for a while. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, guys will probably try to keep it climbing, but that's a pretty strong, if you're a team, to sit there and be able to say, whoa, like the cap it's flat. It's not going up anymore. These were going up and it was going up $10 million every year. Right. Like everything's going to have to stay in 2019, 2020 offseason range, I think, for quite a while until it starts growing again.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, with the Saints, you look at guys like, Kamara's coming up, Lattimore's coming up, Ramchick's coming up, Marcus Williams is coming up, Rankins is coming up. You can feel how you want to feel about it, but these are just guys who Anzalone's is the guy who's going to be coming up. So they have all these guys who are, going to be free agents. And, I'm pretty sure I would say the majority of those guys they would like to keep if they're able to. And so it'll be really, I think the Saints are the worst team this could happen to, just with how they handle their cap. But something tells me that I don't know, like they got to roll it into the Pelican salary or something. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's Kyle Hawley will figure something out. But it is interesting. It is interesting. But at the end of the day, I think if that's what it's got to be for us to have football, then I think that I think that's what it is. And I'm pretty sure some TV deals will start rolling in, and maybe something will happen where maybe something, I don't know, this thing gets figured out. But it's better to have football on a flat cap than it is to not have it. So
I think they can clear up a lot of space pretty quick, though. I mean, there's a handful of moves like the Lattimore and Ramczyk extensions. Like they're $20 million on the books next year. You do both those, there's 10. Nick Easton, I don't like to I don't like to cut people, but $5 million for your backup offensive lineman, like there's another
savings to have there.
If Drew retires, there's like $10 million off the cap there.
And then after his debt money falls off, then if he retires in 21, in 22 you're dealing with the debt money. The next year probably you're getting to the end of where the thing is flattening, and that's 30 million you just freed up. So
Jenkins, like you could do something about he's 14 I think next year. Like you could either cut him and save 7 or split up his salary, with what the mechanism I was talking about before, turning it into a signing bonus. Cam isn't going anywhere. He's got a pretty high base salary. There's a lot of things you can do to clear that number up. I broke it all down. It's on the site. I mean, there's a lot they can do very quickly to get there. And, I don't think it's like not an end of the world scenario. Like I think they can do a lot of those things and still keep Demario Davis and still keep, if they want to keep Anzalone, there's probably a way to do that. I don't think he's going to cost. Well, it's all dependent on this season.
That's fair.
You probably got to make some hard decisions on, some other guy. Like if Rankins doesn't earn it, like I don't know if you're talking about, even if he has a good season, like tagging him, tagging anybody in the current situation probably isn't a very good option. So there's going to be some hard things that happen if it stays flat, but there's ways around it. They always find a way around it. It's tighter for them than probably a lot of teams, but they're no strangers to walking out of these kind of things.
A tight cap, I mean, I think guys, like if they were planning on keeping Marcus Williams, maybe something like that would be tough because I think when you look at the guys who I see Marshawn's. I don't think Marshawn Lattimore is going anywhere. I don't think Ramczyk is going anywhere. I would like to think that they want to keep Kamara, and I think he's going to come somewhere between Derrick Henry and C-Mac.
Okay. Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry. What did I say?
Yeah, no. Like, do you think? What were your thoughts? I'm curious. Because I had some debates. I had some text debates with various people, many people.
Yeah.
And you know how I get going on the text debates.
I have to ignore you. I was like, Nick, not today, bro.
So yeah. I mean, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts when that Henry deal hit? I want to know.
So I just pulled up. So he signed a 4-year extension. Where
it was like 12.5 per, right?
12.5 per. And so Kamara came in at. McCaffrey came in at 16. Listen, I'm not in the market for. I get it, but I don't love the deal for the Titans. I mean, this is not a Titans podcast. When I saw the deal, I'm like 12.5 for Henry. I'm like, I guess that's the going rate, right? And so obviously the first thing I think about is Kamara. And I forget the math at the time, but I think I just added 16 and 12.5 and divided by 2 and just kind of slotted that in as maybe, somewhere where they could start with Kamara, right? 14.5 or something like that. 14.5. I think that's kind of where things may end up. Kamara's obviously looking at 16, and the Saints are probably going to be looking at. I mean, Saints maybe they were looking below 12.5, before everything started. So I took 12.5 after this deal, and like I said, I just kind of figured out a random meet in the middle point. So I think 14 and a half will probably get it done. I think if you're Kamara, right, and you've dealt with injuries, I think it's hard to turn down $14 million a year.
I thought that was a great deal for Alvin. I thought that was an amazing. Like, if you're Alvin, you were so happy that Derrick Henry got 12.5 million, because you're talking a one-dimensional running back now. That,
Yeah.
look, I mean, he changes the way you defend, in the sense that, like, you have to worry about, like, stacking the box, and it opens up play action a lot. So he does bring value there, but he's not like a scheme flexible player that, like, opens up your offense. He's not dynamic. He's a battering back, and those guys were not getting paid. So, like, him getting paid like that, I think lifted up the whole running back market and
So
set a new standard.
let me. So not, I actually agree with you, but let me, for the sake of this podcast and discussion, let me play devil's advocate. Derrick Henry carried his team on his back until, how far did they get? The AFC Championship game? I forget how far the Titans got, but basically through the second half of the season, he was their entire offense. Their entire team ran through him. They don't get that far without him. He, he's the foundation of their offense. He stayed healthy. He hasn't dealt with injuries since he's been in the NFL, and he's consistently gotten better.
Yeah,
He's
I
on the
mean,
field every snap as a running back. But Kamara, you're not. You're been hurt. You haven't been as good since you've been your rookie year. This guy is probably doing a little bit more for his team than you are right now.
I'll agree with that, too, in the sense that, yeah, I mean, he was on the field, he wasn't hurt. If Alvin's even, remotely healthy, he's extremely more valuable to his team. He can do so much more. He opens up your offense in ways that Henry doesn't. I think that you could probably enter the draft and draft a big running back that's a powerful guy, put him behind a good offensive line, and get similar production. And if you're that committed to the run, it's going to draw people in. You're still going to get 8 in the box. People are going to bite on your play action. But yeah, I mean, he was there. He's in the right place at the right time. They built the right offense around him. It helps AJ Brown get one-on-one on the outside and get 20 yards per reception. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot that flows off of him, but I would not vest my fortune to a guy that's going to get, I don't even know how many carries he had, but he's, you're grind into the ground running back. Historically, like,
4
what makes
years.
him different than anybody else at that position that runs the ball 250, 300 times a season? They wear
How
out.
many guys? How many guys? How many guys carry the ball as much as Henry does for over the course of a season? I think when you run the ball as much as he does, I think it does become like a mentality thing, right? And I'm still playing devil's advocate here, right? I think, just for the discussion, but I think being able to carry a team on your back by running the ball 20 plus times a game, I think that's a talent. I think it is, everyone can't do it because everyone's not doing it, right? I mean, it's, if you're going to, that's a winning formula for a team, right? The foundation of your team being the run game. The Ravens did it. The 49ers did it. The Titans did it. So these teams are getting far into the playoffs. And, I look at Henry, and at the end of the day, I don't think he's a good lateral guy. I think he needs space to get going. I think you can probably find a lot of guys with a skill set, but I don't think you can find a lot of guys with his mentality. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the high end of that type of runner, but
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
they just aren't worth the money. Historically, they don't last. You get a couple good years out of guys like that, and I don't know how tied into the year 3 and 4 they are, but I guarantee that in year 3 and 4 they aren't going to feel like he's worth $12.5 million.
Right.
Just as a betting person, history shows you that it's just not going to work like that. And I just think Alvin is a much more dynamic player. He plays multiple positions. You can put him on the field. For a creative coach, look, I don't know if a team like the Titans that are like very much play action, there's some creativity to what they do, but it's limited. What they can do overall is limited. They're very tied to the running back. Tannehill is Tannehill. Henry made him look a lot better than he was. We'll see, if that, continues for a very long time. I could see that going sideways on them too, but I don't see that team with that offense built around him. They can win a playoff game. I don't know if they can win 2. Like, it's tough. Like, they got a good team, but I don't know if you can ride Derrick Henry all the way to San Francisco's built off the run, but they do so much more outside of the run. Their offense is a lot more creative. In 2020, like, is it just straight up, dive? Like, oh, now's a great time for a draw. Like, can you win like that, like consistently in the playoffs at some point? I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to see.
Yeah, they get a lot of big plays in the passing game off of the run game.
They do.
Like they will load up the box with a fullback, 2 tight ends, and run the ball like 90% of the time out of this formation. And then that one play, safety coming down hard, and AJ Brown streaking up the field. But
he's the best at what he does. He's definitely the best at what he does. Like I don't want to come off like I'm bashing him. I just wouldn't pay him 12.5. And if I'm Alvin and I see that deal, it makes me feel good about what I'm getting, because I'm getting 13 at least.
Yeah, do you see like a 2020 version of Brandon Jacobs or something?
I don't know.
like this guy that just runs right into the back of whoever's running. But
what's he got? 2 years? He's 2 years of production.
Yeah, I would say 2 years. Here's the thing. Even if you look at his stats, and man, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I think he started the year kind of slow statistically, and then like around maybe week 10,
they were without their tackle, and they didn't have Tannehill. So I mean,
that's okay. Maybe everybody needs people around him, right? But I think he just kind of exploded in week 10 and became. So yeah, I think I remember when he first came out. I was like, I didn't like him, the draft pick. I didn't think he would be good as he was. I'll be right. I'll be, honest about that. And I'm wrong. Obviously, he turned out to be better. But, I'm with you. I would rather draft Jonathan Taylor in the second round than pay $12.5 million to Derrick Henry.
That's a perfect guy to bring up. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm back to my not being devil's advocate, my real opinion. So yeah, he's definitely. If I don't like that contract personally, if I was a Titan fan, I would think that was a little bit much. But I understand the contract. I don't think the Titans made a bad decision. That's just my opinion on it. And I understand how they want to build their team.
For where they're at, I get it. They're at, I get it.
They're a young team, and I think that you have to pay the guys who, at a certain point, when you're building a culture where you're trying to win, I do think you have to pay guys who perform and earn their contracts. And I think that does say something for, and I sound like a commentator, but I do think it says something like, to guys saying, okay, if I do my job, then I'll get paid. Right. And I think, there's probably more to Derrick Henry than just what happens on the field too. Obviously they think of him as a leader going forward. So,
the counterpoint to that would be that the Patriots have won 6 Super Bowls and they don't pay anybody.
Yeah, but it's one Bill Belichick ever created.
There's but I mean,
one. He created they changed the rule because of something he was doing this year. Like,
I'm just saying, okay, theoretically though, let's go back to Taylor. If they get Taylor and Henry's gone and Taylor does a job well, I don't think anybody's going to care. The key is that you have to replace those players. And if Henry does good in your program and goes out and gets paid, and you replace him and your team's still doing well, I don't think anybody even cares.
Yeah, but what if Taylor can't handle the load of? Listen, a lot of running backs who we think can handle 20 carries a game, they can't. It's not a lot of guys that can carry the ball 20 times a game.
You could probably get the same. Go get Taylor and find a Latavius Murray.
I just don't think it's that easy. I think teams who play like they play, they don't have 2 running backs. They have a guy. And they give that guy the ball all game, and they continue to give it to him. And 2 yards turns to 4, 4 turns to 5, 6 turns to. I think Zeke is not a running back guy by committee guy. Henry's not a running back by committee guy. Those guys, they carry the ball over and over until, I think it's something to that. I don't think you can just have 2 guys back there.
I think you can find a way to be good enough though.
Not with how they play though. That's the foundation. It's not like the Saints where the run game is a accessory to a bigger puzzle. I think the Titans, the way they play football, and look, I still don't like the contract, but I do think they need a guy who carries the ball 20 times a game. They have that running back. They have that profile. Seattle's been trying to create that since they lost beast mode, right? They haven't been able to find it, and their running game hasn't been the same. And they're a team that starts with the run, and you could, they didn't have the success that the Titans have. Man, what did that? Man, this is like
Seattle shouldn't.
This is to that point, which is off subject, but why why is Russell Wilson's like why are they still holding him back? Like I just always wonder about that. Like he's what, top 3? I don't know. I don't know where to put Russell Wilson, right? I don't know quarterback rankings, but he's top 5.
I'd probably put him second.
I'm right behind Ferrari. I'm probably there with you. Like Seattle starts with the run game. Like the foundation of the offense is not Russell Wilson. I don't understand what's going on there. And it was like that from day one, and it just feels like they've never thought about like, oh man, this guy has gotten better. And he's good too. It's not like he's a guy who's like overrated or nothing. Like
he's got the best deep ball in the league. Like it's not close. Like
you think he's better than Ferrari
on deep balls, like accuracy? Yeah.
Okay. I don't know the numbers. He throws a crazy deep ball. Like I'm not about to debate that with you. It feels like it's in the air forever too. It's like
Mahomes probably has more arms, but yeah,
definitely.
Wilson is significantly more accurate than anybody else in the league. I think. Like I'm sure the numbers would bear that out too. Like if it were looked up.
Yeah. I'll take your word. I just know when he throws it, I'm like, that's an interception because I feel like he just lobs every deep ball like it's an alley-oop or something, and it always lands in his receiver's hand. So you can't complain about it. But yeah, I think if you're Alvin, I think if I'm Alvin, I'm thinking 14 and a half is where I'm trying to come in at, looking at, because you're not going to get the C-Mac money, right? I mean, that's you can try, right? But it's nothing about.
If he goes for 1,000 and 1,000, like he can get the C-Mac range.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm talking right now, right?
Yeah. No. Not right now. Like, man,
right now, I think right now you can justify giving Alvin.
Right now, it's hard to pay him, man. I don't even really know where to put that money because you're paying him. If you're paying him 14, you're paying him off the rookie year still. You're paying him for what he could be,
and what you think he will be,
right? And he probably will be that. But like, I think it becomes a lot. If I were him, I'd play out the season. Like I've said it before on here, I would not sign right now. Like his value can't go down. I don't think his value can go down at all.
It can. Yeah, he's an ACL tear away from his value being
okay. Like the doomsday for sure. Anybody.
He's a running back though. Yeah, he's a running back. Like this is he gets. And Saints are gonna listen.
I think even if he popped an ACL, I think he'd probably be pretty fine. Like somebody's gonna pay him. Like especially if it's early in the year.
Yeah, pay him, but not pay him.
I don't 16.
Know. I mean, here's the thing, right? And I think this is realistic. The Saints can go into the season saying, you know what? We're not paying Kamara, right? That's the decision that we made. We decided that Marcus Williams and free safeties are harder to find than running backs or whatever, right? Or the cap is flat. We can't play Marshawn, Rankins, whatever, right? They can just run him 20 times a game. They can just run him into the ground. In fact, that's probably what would happen if they decided to move on from him, right? And your chance for injury is high. So I think, if he pops his Achilles, week 7, week 8, yeah, I think that's a bad thing for Kamara. You're probably not getting that deal. So if I'm Kamara and
I'd still bet on myself though, because like say that happens, he pops it. He's a young dude. He's going to come back. He's going to be healthy. You tear an ACL, you're probably going to be fine.
Maybe everybody doesn't come back from those injuries.
Still, if that happens in week 7, he's good the first 7 weeks. Someone's going to probably give him 8, 9, 10 million for one season. You go do it, and then you hit the market again, and you get 16, and you're still ahead.
Yeah, but what makes you think? I mean, that 16 is not guaranteed. You come in. I mean, listen, once you pop,
that's the bet. I would make that bet if I had his talent.
But when you pop the Achilles, it takes a year for it to even start to become the. It's not even the Achilles again until a year and a half later, right? So. If I'm Alvin, I don't see how I can stare 13 and a half, 14 down the gun barrel and turn it down. I just don't. That's not for an extra $1 million a year when you can potentially
if you think you can top C-Mac though, like if you're talking 13, then you're talking 15, 16, 17, $20 million over 5 years. It's worth the bet to me. You're talking generational wealth. Like I would make that bet if I was him. I would make it.
I don't know if Kamara. I don't know if anyone tops C-Mac's deal.
If he has the season he can have.
If he has a season he can have, then he's the best player in the NFL, right? But I mean, realistically, he's probably not going to have C-Mac's number. C-Mac did 15. He did 1,500, right? Running the ball, I don't know how many times a game, more than 20. That's a lot, right? He's the most important player to his team in the NFL. More touches, receptions. Now he's a check down machine. He doesn't run wide receiver routes like Kamara does, but I think 16 may be the best bet. Like 16 is like, because Kamara won't be as important to the Saints as C-Mac is to the Panthers. And you can make a case that Kamara has a better skill set, but it hasn't played out that way on the field as it pertains to numbers. So I don't know. 16 may be the ceiling, man, especially with the cap the way it is.
If you're saying he's worth 14 and he signs right now, that means on the open market he's worth at least 16 because you're giving something up to sign with the year left on your deal.
Every player does, though, right? When you sign a year,
but if you can get 14 now, they're telling you you're worth 16. They're telling you you're worth 17. Like you hit the market, it's going to go up.
You're right. But you also realize that one cut and you're worth 7.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying, if I was him, I would bet it.
Yeah. So you would turn down $14 million a year if you were Kamara. If Saints walked into your office and you're Kamara and they said $14 million a year, 4-year deal, $14 million. And how old is Kamara? I mean, 24, 25. I mean, you can hit the market again before 30. And the cap is flat for the next 4 or 5 years. You're turning that deal down?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, if I know it's not going down, if it's staying flat and it's not dropping, yeah, I would turn it down because I can only take my value up, and unless I pop my Achilles in week 16, like I'm fine. I'm still getting that money. I don't think his value can go down unless there's something that significantly alters his career.
Yeah, I mean, you are a chance taker. I know you, so I don't know why I'm acting surprised.
Well, I'm just saying for him, like he has the ability to be better than any player in the league.
And how has that worked out the last 2 years?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. It hasn't worked out, and we're talking about $14 million, and it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, but I'm saying the reality is that you've been hurt. You came into this past season.
Right, but he's been hurt, and he's still averaged 4.7, and he's worth we're talking $14 million.
But the reason why he is worth 14 is because not last year. Right. Right. So last year has nothing to do with the $14 million number. Right. We know that. But, if I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I came into this last season really healthy, looking as good. I mean, you text me. You was like, yo, Kamara was looking really good.
5, yeah.
Started season. You was like, yo, Kev, like this dude's like got some juice to him. One wrong play, and it's a wrap. And you're not a tight end or a wide receiver. You're a running back. You're running into linemen and linebackers. And I understand what you're saying. The gamble makes sense, but I can't gamble. I can't risk being worth $7 million a year when I'm making 14 and I'm reaching for 16. Like I can't gamble for that extra 1.5, 2, and risk cutting my how much I'm worth by half. I would just struggle with it, but I get it though. I get it. I mean, if he has a 1,200 a year, yeah, of course he's going to get 16. If not from the Saints, from someone else, but
he probably get more than 16.
And I don't even know in this offense if he's going to get that though. Like, it would be more like, oh, you look like it, which is fine, right? If, I think with Kamara you can see it and not necessarily, see the numbers, but I don't know, man. I would struggle to go for that 1.5 when I can just call Adidas up or Airheads up and say, man, let's renegotiate. He's a marketable dude already, right? He's like, I don't know, man. I'm just looking at it thinking like, yeah, one play, but regardless, how else? What other than Kamara do you think? Like, say Marshawn, for instance, do you think this has any effect on how they're negotiating with him?
What, the cap?
Yeah. If you're like Marshawn wants, if he wants he wants to be the highest paid corner in the league, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's another person that I think needs to play out the season to get his money. I don't think he's top of the league corner money right now. Like, I don't know if you can make that argument for him in this moment. I think he has to go out and play it. So he's another one that I would probably hold out and max out my value.
See, if I'm Marshawn, then I am the.
He's more risk likely or injury likely to me though. Like the history with the hamstrings, I think he's more at risk than Alvin probably. I mean, just given like if I'm him, like that would be in my mind more. But I don't think you can afford to do that with the money that's out there.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't reared its head in 4 years. So I would feel decent about the hamstring if I was him. I get where you're coming from, but he's a young cornerback who those guys can get second contracts and whatnot. So I think his risk is a little bit lower than Alvin's. Running backs, I don't know. Something is in my head, and maybe it's just like a hard coded line of source code saying if you're a running back and you get offered X amount of money, you take it because you're one cut from being out of the league or whatever. But okay, so with training camp coming up, that starts the 28th. Is the 28th the date? The report date? Has that changed with everything that's going on with? I don't know. Has a report date changed for training camp?
No, they're still coming in the 28th. They're supposed to, and then they take a test, and then I think it's 2 days off, and then not 2 days off. 2 days can't go in the building. Then take another test. You get two negatives, you can go in the 5th day. So I don't know what that's going to look like on the field.
Yeah,
if they're going to be doing anything on the field at that point, or what the deal is. So I don't. I wish there was a little bit more information. Everything's a little bit uncertain right now as far as everything's going. The rookies are supposed to come in, I think the 24th is what I heard. So they show up on the 24th, get their test. But maybe that changes now too with this other stuff, and you just do everybody at once. I don't know. But so as of yesterday though, like the idea was to bring them, but now they got to cut guys too. You got to go down to 80, I think. I saw today.
Earlier, right, or something.
Yeah. So I don't are you bringing everybody to town? Because some of those rookies might not, some of them might not make it into camp, so it's just all a little bit up in the air until everything's finalized.
Yeah. Those undrafted guys it's going to be a tough year for guys who are trying to make the team that way. And, no preseason games, and they agreed to that today, if I remember, if I read that correctly. So, the first thing I'm thinking, okay, like how does that affect, how does it affect the team that they put together? And I think the Saints, I want to say, I feel like they did a good job with this from the start. One is just being a good team, right? And having veterans and guys who are set on your team, and having a lot of guys who've been in the same system for a while, so you can kind of deal with that. But also just kind of how they approach the draft this year, and they've spoken a lot about it. And the reason why I would put a little bit more emphasis on it this year is because I guess if someone says something more than they say it in the previous years, you believe it a little bit more. But they've talked about like the IQ of the guys they drafted this year and how they are already. And I've listened to the positional coaches talk about those guys. But just your thoughts on
he's smart.
He's smart. It's just like the same thing about every player. Coach Payton says that about every player. Yeah. First thing is he's smart. I'm like, all right, who's not?
He's smart.
Yeah. But apparently the guys who came in this year are smarter. So yeah, I mean, how do you think the no preseason game affects the Saints, and do you think that they have maybe some inherited advantage with the roster that they have?
People are going to disagree with me on this, but I don't know if that's as big of a deal as everybody's making that out to be. How many guys actually make the team? Like, there's a few. You can go through. There's a few that make the team off of making, play in the preseason game.
Does Deontay Harris exist without the preseason?
I don't know. I didn't see the practices last year, but I can say that, like, I thought JT Gray was going to make the team before any preseason games. I thought Ken Crawley was going to make the team. I thought Deontay Harris had a shot. I thought Willie Snead had a shot. And I think that, like, you identify these people usually pretty early in the practices. And then, you do your 53s or whatever, and you leave them off and you wait for that confirmation to see it in the game, to see if it carries over. I think you just have to believe in what you see in practice a little bit more and feel a little bit more confident in it. You knew Bobby Richardson was making the team. The guy from Clemson that same year, Travaris Barnes, you knew he was making the team. Like, these guys stand out pretty quick. And I think that, even over a course of X amount of practices, that you're going to get that confirmation over time. So, like, it's going to play out. It's just not going to play out like on a stage. So, I mean, yeah, there are some guys that aren't going to make the team that might have one or two. There's going to be a few of those throughout the league. But I think that if you're good, you're putting yourself in that mix anyhow. Now you just got to make that play in practice.
Yeah, that's fair. I think one thing that kind of compounds it is the fact that they didn't have any mini camps, rookie mini camps, OTAs, or anything like that. And typically, you can get an idea about, players during that time and see who's maybe a quick learner, see who's standing out early and things along those lines. So I think guys not having that on field work earlier in the summer, I think it's going to be an effect, right? I don't think it's possible for things just to go as they normally do, right? I think that's obvious, kind of, sort of. I don't know, maybe a little common sense, but there's going to be some repercussions to it. But I just think that having a team and some stability in your coaching staff and your players, I think it gives the team an edge, because less on the field work just means less experience doing what you do. And I think guys who've been doing it longer in the same way, they're going to have I think maybe it's not a big edge, right? But when you look at, say, week 1 against Tampa, that's a team that I felt like, they needed the off-season training activities, right? They needed mini camp. They needed, all the preseason training camp they can get. So, if I'm Brady, like, I don't trust OJ Howard, and those guys. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that there was like a lot of sentiment on Twitter, like after the 80 thing came down, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, this means like no UDFAs are going to make the team." Like, they're going to get the same like these guys are going to get opportunities. It's not like they're going to cut every UDFA. Like, they gave Calvin Throckmorton $122,000 already. He's coming to camp. They're going to see what he can do. They're going to give him a chance to have reps.
Yeah.
Malcolm Roach got $90,000, 90-some thousand. The Baki, the linebacker, got $157,000. They didn't give him that to cut him before he ever practices.
157? I didn't even know he got that.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, Adrian McGee got $500. Like, that's the punter got $1,500. Yeah, maybe, if you got to cut down, maybe he's not a top priority. He was probably there to give Morstead some rest anyhow. So, yeah, maybe he doesn't make it to camp. But, Jordan Steckler got $90,000. Keith Washington got $95,000. Marquez Callaway got $95,000. These guys are going to come. I would be shocked if they just gave away all that money and they're just like, nah. Like,
well, I don't want you to give away the whole article.
Well, look, I mean, some of these guys, they like, okay, you have all these, like, you can cut Tommy Lee Lewis for a week and probably get him back. If
I forget he's on the team.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys like that. There's 10 guys. Everybody's going to be cutting 10 guys. You know what they can do. You know 10 players on the team that are just there to be in camp. Like, you already know who the 10 guys are that you can cut and nobody else is going to sign.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you let those guys go. You look at your UDFAs. If they aren't giving you good practice reps, they go and you bring one of them back. If somebody signs Tommy Lee Lewis, there's another Tommy Lee Lewis on the open market that you can sign and bring in and have run third team reps and have Keith Washington cover them. Like, it's not – like,
you don't bring Traverse Cadet back.
I'm just saying, like, it would be crazy to me if teams did not look at guys that have upside. Like, you're gonna look at the guys that you're like, okay, we scouted him, we think he can be good. Let's see if he's good. You aren't just gonna say, well, we got to roll with Tommy Lee now. Like, that's just not how it's gonna go. Like, some of those guys are gonna get cut, and they're gonna look at these guys.
Yep, that's fair. Yeah, I think coaches will probably stand out a little bit more this year too.
Yeah.
I think that's something to keep an eye on. So, I don't know. Maybe they bring Joe Morgan back or something. I don't know. We'll see. All right, man. Well, look, training camp starts in a week. That's a week from today. So, I'm excited, man. I don't know what to do. Basketball is this week, some form of it, and football is coming back. I just feel like,
I tried watching a baseball game. Couldn't do it.
You got my respect for trying. Like, baseball is good live though. I'll be real. Like, I feel like everybody says that, but like, I was in Cali for a while. I'm a Giant fan because I just didn't care about baseball until I got out there. I used to be a Brave fan as a kid, but whatever. And so, yeah, it's fun live, but just watching it on TV, it's definitely a yawn fest.
Yeah, I mean, I go to random games, like when we travel and there's a game in a city on a Saturday. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I went to some Nationals playoff game last year. Went to a Dodgers game one year. Like if there's a game somewhere, like I go to it just because it's like cool to be there and just sit outside or whatever. But like, whew, man, that's a slow game.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I watched the World Series though. I will admit that it feels a little bit more exciting. Maybe just because more is on the line, but I don't know. I feel like you one of those. You try to support. I don't know. I remember you like making like a big ruckus when Anthony Davis was in New Orleans. He was like, "Hey, you guys got one of the probably the best players on the planet in your city. You probably should go and support him." So, I don't know. Maybe showing a little love to the other sports.
Yo,
So.
someone asked me this earlier. Raphael Rattler. He asked me. Well, he didn't even ask me. He just brought it up. He said, "Imagine if the Saints had Mahomes and Zion at the same time."
Why would he do that?
Like that would be.
That'd be crazy.
I mean, they still got Breeze. Breeze can win him a Super Bowl, but yeah, like having the two like most interesting, marketable young players and the top two sports, and
that's crazy. Like
it's the top two sports in the country, right? Baseball's third, right? It's behind the NBA now, right? It's got to be.
I mean, for me, it's been like that for 37 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably not the best guy.
I'm not trying to trash baseball here. Like I used to watch baseball when there was nothing else to do, but like once we had like options.
Yeah, it's I mean,
there's man, I can't sit here for I can't watch a 3-hour movie anymore either, though. Really, I mean, it's got to be pretty special. So
yeah, I'm about to say it depends on what it is, man. You put on Lord of the Rings, and I'm
never seen it.
All right, guys. So
I missed it. I missed it in the moment. All right, I missed it in the moment, and I get like it's like the movie Fletch. I've never seen the movie Fletch because like I missed it, and then people make these like Underhill jokes to me because there's an Underhill joke in the Fletcher thing, and there's an Underhill thing in the Lord of the Rings, and like all these people always make these comments, man. I'm just like, F that movie. I don't even care about that movie.
Yeah, you be catching stuff late, man. Like you didn't catch Eminem, and when he was like I don't know, man. But you know what? I feel you though. It's hard if you're not like if you didn't catch it when it happened, then it's not the same. I don't know. It's like I try to get you to listen to like these old freestyles, and you're like, man, that was like, Dwight Howard was still playing for the Magic or something. It's just not that relevant. No.
Dwight Howard.
Yeah. So, but no, I feel you, man. I feel you. All right, guys. Well, look, football is coming back. I feel good about it coming back. If it don't, then don't blame me, man. Don't blame me. But
it's coming back.
It's coming back. It's coming back. We got to have hope. We have to have faith about it. And listen, there's no better time, right? There's no better time than to go to NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Get you a subscription. Because Nick will be at training camp. He was late to this podcast because he said he had to get his quote unquote miles in. right. So he was somewhere sweating, walking up and down the street.
Gotta train, man.
Listen, walking up and down the streets, sweating, wet, no suntan on, getting ready for. He was putting lotion on when we started the pod. I'm like, what's going on? This is what I got to deal with. But this is all for football. So support this man. Support this man. He, just go there and subscribe. Just like, no, seriously, man. Some of the figures we was throwing out today about the undrafted free agents that came from something he wrote on the site this week. Got some projected some fantasy football type stat projections. If you're into that type of stuff, it's there on the site. Some stuff about Jameis Winston. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but that and / preseason. Go check it out. Whole lot of other things. So go to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Get you a subscription. Nick is walking miles every day, getting ready for training camp. Infamous training camp reports are coming back. Everything, man. This is a little bit of normal that we're trying to get back to. And so, as a Saint fan and as a Saint listener, I don't know any better way than you guys can kind of get the best Saints content out there. So
speaking of fantasy football. Nobody's probably even listening. They probably already shut it off.
It's over.
Speaking of fantasy football, though, I got in the league with Bill Barnwell, and I know, like, I'm carrying the city on my back on that one. Like, I know they want. I know Saints fans are always fired up about Barnwell, so I'm carrying the city on my back on that one.
Hey, listen, everybody, DM Nick any feedback you want him to give to him.
Like I can't like him and the only other guy that I could think of that like is in that level is the like they hate the guy from Over the Cap. They hate him.
Jason.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah, they're
him.
always mad at him too. Like, I think he does, I think he probably does a better job than anybody breaking down the cap.
He
But yeah,
knows
I
the
mean,
numbers,
he's
but
hard
it's
on the
just
Saints. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
hard on the Saints, so I get it.
yeah. No, guys, send Nick some feedback. Anything you want, you want to forward to said football commentator, and we'll see if he gets it to him. Goodbye to that Pro Football Writers of America.
Oh man.
All right, man. Listen, we out of here, man. Make sure you guys sign up, subscribe, go to YouTube, like and subscribe there too. We really appreciate it. Football's back, man. So we're excited. We'll be covering the Saints as much as ever and as better as ever. So with that said, thank you guys for listening. We'll definitely see you next week. We out.